All right, guys, today we are going to talk about these weird verbs that are called deponent verbs. Okay, now deponent verbs look passive. Okay, so for example, in present, imperfect, and future, they'll have that arvis term or miniunter, or in the perfect passive. They'll have the fourth principal part and a form of sum. Okay. However, they translate active. Okay. And this little nugget comes from your book. This verb deponere means to put aside. So you should maybe think of it as putting aside the active forms but keeping the active meanings. Okay, now there's a real simple and easy way to tell if a verb is deponent. Okay, so deponent verbs have three principal parts. Okay, the last one is 2 words long. Okay, so for example, I'm going to pick this word arbitror, which means to think. Okay, and so arbitror, arbitrary, arbitratus, sum. Okay, and so this is, let me put some macrons in there. This is a deponent verb. So your first principal part in a deponent verb will end in or, really. Okay. You are going to have conjugations, so because you can see that right here. Your second principal part is going to end in I. Okay. And then again, your third principal part has 2 words. Okay. Now, non-deponent verbs usually have 4 principal parts. Okay, so all those verbs we've been seeing, most of them have 4 principal parts. So I'll use facio as an example. Oops, facere, feci, and factum. Okay, now we just learned 3 irregular verbs. And if you noticed, none of them had a 4th principal part, but neither did possum, okay? So let's use possum just as our example here of one that just has 3 principal parts, okay? Now, it's not deponent, okay? Its first principal part ends in M, okay? Its second principal part ends in the letter E. Its third principal part is only 1 word long, okay? So that's how you can tell those apart, okay? So let's look at conjugations, okay? So I'm going to give you examples, and we'll talk about why that one would be a first conjugation verb and so on and so forth, okay? So I'm going to use our verb arbitror again. Okay, arbitror, arbitrary, arbitratus, sum. Okay, and this one is first conjugation because of, look, normally first conjugation verbs, those non-deponent verbs, end in long ARE. Deponent first conjugation verbs end in macron ARI with a macron. Okay. Second conjugation would be like this word, wereor, wereri, that's a mouthful, and veritus sum. Okay, so remember our second conjugation verbs normally end in long ERE in the second principal part. And also the first principal part ends in EO. Well, here you have EOR on the first principal part and ERI on the second principal part. Okay, so still very similar to our second conjugation verbs that are non-deponent. Okay, for third conjugation, our example is going to be loquor, loqui, locutus sum. Okay. First conjugation is going to end in OR. Okay, kind of like we did up here with first conjugation. But notice there's no ERE or ARE. It's just an I. Okay, just an I for third conjugation. All right, moving on to third IO, we're going to use this word, patior, pati, passus sum. Okay, so for third IO, we had the IO and then an ERE, very much like third conjugation with that ERE. So here, our second principal part still just has an I, just like third conjugation. But in typical third IO fashion, our first principal part is going to end in IOR. Okay? And then fourth conjugation, we're going to use the word partior, partiri, partitus sum. Okay, so again, normal fourth conjugation non-deponents would be IO. So we have IOR on our first principal part. Their second principal part would end in long IRE. But now we have long IR, long I. Okay, so again, you can see how our conjugations are at least still related. Okay, now deponent verbs can also be indicative or subjunctive. And unlike how I did it with the irregular verbs, where I kept your subjunctive side by side, I decided to put all the subjunctive forms at the end. Okay, so we're going to go through indicative forms first, and then we'll get to subjunctive. Okay, now normally when we are talking about our verbs, we talk about the tense, and we talk about the voice being active or passive. So one thing you need to know is deponent verbs have no voice. Okay, so remember, they look passive. Okay, and you can see that right here. Are, ris, tur, mur, mini, untor. Okay, but when we translate them on that next page, we're going to translate them active. Okay, one more thing. Remember that these vowels that are in parentheses that I'm highlighting right now, we add those in various places, always with third IO, and fourth conjugation verbs. Okay, so just be very careful with that as you follow along. Okay, so we're actually going to do one verb from each conjugation in the present. Because with us having, I'm going to go back to possibly add the parts that are in the parentheses, I want to just give you guys a refresher about when that happens. Okay, so we're going to talk about hortor first. Okay, the first principal part is going to be our first singular form. Okay, so we have hortor, and so this means I know your book says to exhort, we're going to say to urge because I just think urge is better. So I'm going to say I urge. Okay. Now, for the rest of our forms, we're going to take hartori and we're going to drop the I. I'm sorry, we're going to drop the RI. So horta is my stem. Okay, and I'm going to go put my stem in all my places. Okay, I'm going to do with you guys what I've been doing with the Latin 1 kids. And for my endings, I'm going to use a different color. Let's go with that one. Okay, so for second singular, we're going to add ris. Okay, and so this is going to be you urge. For third singular, we're going to add tor for hortator. And so this is he, she, or it urges. We're going to add mer for first plural. And so this is we urge. We're going to add mini. And we're going to have a macron over that last I. And so this is y'all urge. And then we're going to add untor for third plural, and so this is they urge. Now remember, I'm going to write this off to the side. For present, you can say urge or urges. You can say is, am, or are urging. Or you can say do or does urge. Okay, and that's for present. All right, so we're going to move on to wereor. Okay. Wereor is second conjugation, and I know that because of the EOR and the ERI. And again, because it's second conjugation, we're going to drop the RI there. And so, but first, we are going to put wereor right there, okay, in my first singular box. And this one means I fear. Okay. It also means I respect. And so I am reminded of Michael Scott when he tells the show, I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. That kind of reminds me because those seem possibly like two different things. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to take were and I'm going to put it in as my stem. Okay, and we'll change colors, and let's go to the hot pink. Okay, so we're going to add ris for second singular, so we have wereris. Okay, again, that's a mouthful, so you fear. We're going to add ter for third singular, weretor, and so this is he, she, or it fears. We're going to add more for first plural, for weremor, and then we have we fear. We'll add many for second plural, and so that's y'all fear. And then we're going to add untor for third plural, and this is they fear. Okay? All right, so now we're moving into those third IO, and fourth conjugation verbs. Okay. So again, we're taking our first principal part and we're putting it into this first singular box. Okay. So I'm going to put sequor. And sequor generally means to follow. This is where we get our word like sequence. Okay. And so this means I follow. Okay, we are going to take our first principal part. Okay, we are going to drop the OR. So my stem is SEQU. Okay, and then we're going to add our endings. Now, this is where we're going into adding those things that are in the parentheses. Okay, so we need to add the E for second singular before we add ris. So you have sequeris, And so this is you follow. Third singular is sequitur. And so this is he, she, or it follows. There's actually, before I go on, there's a semi-legal term called non sequitur, which means it does not follow. In other words, what's being said legally does not make sense. And so there has to be another reason or what have you. I learn a lot of things when I watch Law and Order. Okay. All right. So going on to first plural, we add that I and then mer. So we have we follow. On second plural, we add the I and then many. So this is y'all follow. And then third plural, we're going to add the you. So yes, we're going to have two yous. And then we're going to add untor. Okay, and so this is they follow. Okay. All right, so we are moving on to patior. Okay, and patior is my third IO verb. Okay. So again, I'm taking patior and I'm putting it right here in my first singular box. Okay. So I have patior. Now, patior means to endure or suffer. And so this is even where we get our word patience. Like Miss McConaughey sometimes has patience with the kids. Okay. So that's where we get that word, because if you're patient with someone, you are enduring, their shenanigans or what have you. Okay. So I'm going to say I endure. Okay. All right. So again, we're going to take our first principal part. We are dropping the OR. Okay. Now, we now have an I as our stem. Okay. And I need to, before I go any further, for second singular, you need to remember on third IO conjugation verbs, in that present, we actually drop the I. But only for this one. And then we'll add the E. Okay, but there's no macron. And then we'll add ris. So this is going to, sorry guys, I kind of messed up. I got out of my zone there. So going back, we're going to add the E that's in a macron, the E that's in parentheses, but again, no macron, and then ris. Okay, so this is going to be you suffer. Okay, now going back for the rest of these, we are going to go with pati, P-A-T-I, as our stem. Why does it do that? I have no idea. Okay? All right. So, but now we have the I's here. Okay? So I don't need to add the I's that are in parentheses. Notice I said I don't need to add the I's that are in parentheses. So for third singular, we're going to have patitor. And again, this is he, she, or it suffers. We're going to add mer for first plural, and this is we suffer. We're going to add many for second plural, and this is y'all suffer. Okay, so third plural. Remember I said we're not going to add the I's. So with third plural, we add a U. We are going to add the U, and then we're going to add untor. Okay? And so now we have patiuntor, and this is they suffer. Okay? All right, next we are moving on to fourth conjugation. Okay? And here we have partior. Partior means to divide, so maybe you see our word partition. Okay? Again, we're going to take partior and we're going to move it right down here. Okay, and so partior is I divide. Okay. We're going to drop the OR. Okay, so my stem there's my stem and all my other spots. Let's go with black. Okay, now for second singular, we're not going to add the E in parentheses. We're just going to add ris. So I have partiris. And so this is you divide. Okay. Third singular, I'm going to add tor for partitor. So this is he, she, ooh, that's bad. I'm not doing well today. Let's fix this. There we go. There we go. Sorry, guys. He, she, or it divides. You'll add more to party more, and this is we divide. You'll have partimony for second plural, and that's y'all divide. And then for third plural, you'll have partiuntur, and this is they divide. Okay? So we're moving into imperfect. And again, we have seen these endings before. Bar, bars, butter, bummer, bummity, bonter. You guys are always really good about being able to tell me how you know that something's imperfect. I do need to add a few macrons in. So you need a macron over the A in bar, the A in baris, the A in bator, the A in bomor, the A in bomini, and then the last I in bomini. But no macron in bontor. Okay? Now, hopefully you remember, we add these E's that are in the parentheses. Okay? So I'm going to put a little note here. Add the E to third IO, fourth conjugation verbs. Okay? So I believe we're only going to do one. Yeah, we're only going to do one, and I chose the third conjugation verb. Okay, so to get our stem, remember, for a third conjugation verb, we're going to take that first principal part. We are dropping OR. Okay, so SEQU is my stem. Okay, so SEQU is my stem, and I'll change my color. Okay, I'm going to add that E with a macron, and then bar. Okay. Real quick, I got a little overzealous. There is no macron over the A in bar. Okay, so let's fix that. Sorry. Sometimes I get carried away. So anyways, first singular is seque bar. And so this is going to be I was following. Okay. Remember, for imperfect, we can say was or were following. We can say used to follow. Or we can say kept following. Okay. All right, so for second singular, we're going to add that E with a macron and then baris. And so this is you were following. For third singular, we're going to add our E and then bator. And so this is he, she, or it was following. We're going to add a bomor for first plural. And we have we, sorry. There we go. We were following. You're going to add a bomini for seque bomini, and this is y'all were following. And then you'll add a bontor, and this is they were following. Okay? All right, so just like with our non-deponent verbs, we're going to have two sets of endings. Okay? One for first and second conjugation, and one for third IO, and fourth. Okay? So let's go back to hortor. Okay, again, this one is first. I have OR and ARI. I'm going to take my second principal part. I'm going to drop the RI. So my stem becomes horta. Okay, so my stem becomes horta. Okay, and then we're going to add these endings up here. Bor, beris, bitur, bimmer, bimini, buntor. Okay, so for first singular, I have hortibor. So this is I will urge. Okay, for second singular, I will have hortaberis. And this is you will urge. Third singular, we're going to add bitor for hortabitor, and this is going to be he, she, or it will urge. First plural is going to be hortabimor, we will urge. Second plural will be hortabimini, and this is we, not we, y'all will urge. And then for third plural, we're going to add buntor for horta buntor. And so this is they will urge. Okay. All right, moving into future for third IO, and fourth. Okay. Ar, aris, ator, emor, emini, entor. Okay. This time I used my third IO verb, okay, patior. So I'm going to take patior, I'm dropping the OR there, and so pati becomes my stem. Okay, and so here we go. So now we're going to add R to first singular for patiar, and so this is I will suffer. Second singular, we are going to add that E with a macron, and then ris, so we'll have patieris, and this is you will suffer. Third singular is patietor, and this is he, she, or it will suffer. First plural is going to be patiemor, and this is we will suffer. Second plural will be patiemini, and this is going to be y'all will suffer. And then we'll have patientor, they will suffer. Okay. All right. So now we're getting into perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect. And we're only going to have one example for each because remember, we are using that fourth principal part in a form of sum. Okay? Don't forget over on the plural side, the endings on the fourth principal part change. So both parts are singular or both parts are plural. Okay? So let's take whereor. And now we're using what amounts to the third principal part. Okay? And so this one I'm going to put right here on my first singular. And so I have veritus sum. And this us means that it's masculine. So I'm leaving these masculine. Real quick as a review, the us is masculine singular. The a can be feminine singular. And the is neuter singular. And remember that those genders are decided by the subject of your the gender of your subject. Over on the plural side, the I with the macron is masculine plural. AE, which remember is pronounced I, is feminine plural. And then A can be neuter plural. Okay? But you'll be able to tell if it's if it's feminine or neuter by the form of sum that's used. If you have an A with one of these singular forms of sum, then you know that it's feminine. If you have an A with one of these plural forms of sum, then it's neuter. Okay? Veritus sum is going to be masculine, and so that does matter once we get down into third singular. Okay, so remember for the perfect, we just say I feared. You can also say has or have feared or did fear. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take veritus. Okay, that's going to be my fourth principal part, okay, but it's my form of sum that changes, okay, and so for second singular we're keeping veritus, but then we're going to have s, and so this is you feared. For third singular we're going to have est. Now remember I said that us is masculine. Normally we would put he, she, or it, but we can't here because this is specifically masculine, so we're going to use he. So he feared. Okay. All right. Over on the plural side, remember we have to make veritus plural as well. So we're dropping the us. Okay, and we're going to add that I with a macron to make it masculine and plural. Okay, so our form of sum is going to go to sumus. So this is we feared. For second plural, we'll add estis for veriti estis, and this is y'all feared. And then for third plural, veriti sunt, and so this is they feared. Okay. All right, moving on to pluperfect. Again, let me add the macrons over our eyes again. We're using that fourth principal part, and it's our forms of sum that have changed. And that's how we know that it would be pluperfect. Okay. I am using partior. So we're going here to partitus sum. Now remember, we're making it pluperfect, so we're not using sum, okay? But I am going to change, and I am going to make this feminine this time. So we're going to take partitus, and we're dropping the us, and we're going to add a to make it singular. Okay. Now, over on the plural side, we're going to drop the A and then make it AE. So we'll have partitai. Okay, so now all we need are our forms of sum. Okay, so for first singular, we're going to have eram. And so this is I had divided. For second singular, we'll have partita eras. For you had divided. For third singular, we'll have partita erat. And again, this is feminine, so I can only use she. She had divided. All right, over on first plural, we have partitai eramus. And this is we had divided. For second plural, we'll have partitai eratis. For y'all had divided. I can spell divided. And then third plural is partitai erant. And so this is they had divided. Oh, I did it again. Let's just fix that. Okay. They had divided. Okay. All right. One last one. Future perfect. Again, we need that macrons over these eyes over here. But again, we're using based off of our fourth principal part, and it's our form of sum that changed. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt. Okay. So we're going to go back to hortor. Okay. Again, we're going to take what amounts to the third principal part. Okay. We don't need sum. And this time I am going to make it neuter. Okay. Just to give everyone equal representation. And I need an acron over that A there. Okay. So I'm going to go back through. I'm going to put my stems. Okay. Now, to make it plural, remember we're dropping the over on the singular side and changing it to the A. So now that'll be hortata, which sounds a little bit like matata. Okay. All right, so now we need to add in our forms of sum. Okay. So for first singular, we need a row. Oh, and there should be a macron over that O. Let's go and add it there. So first singular is hortatum ero, and this is I will have urged. For second singular, we're going to have hortatum eris, and this is you will have urged. For hortatum, well, for third singular, we're going to have hortatum erit. And again, because it's neuter, we can only use it. Okay? It will have urged. Okay? Over on plural, we've changed our fourth principal parts ending. And so now we're going to have hortata erimis. We will have urged. For second plural, hortata eritis. Y'all will have urged. Excuse me. Excuse me again. And then for third plural, hortata erunt. And this is they will have urged. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop at this point with just the indicatives, and you will see the subjunctive forms of these deponent verbs pop up in a different video. Email me if you have any questions. I hope you guys are doing well. Miss you.